Kate, Profit with the Planets. As I'm recording this, it is June 13, 2022. We are having a bit of a crypto crash here, and there's some pretty big astrology going on right now. We've had this massive trend line right here, which is actually responsible for holding up everything here all the way back from 3,800 in 2000. Now, where we get the strongest stuff in financial astrology is when we get a really big marriage of the technicals, and particularly something like this massive trend line. But I am the person, you do not see lines all over my chart. I'm all about keep it simple, stupid. I could say, you know, we're sort of, you looked at this a few days ago and you're like, oh, when all the people come in on Monday, the pros, they're probably going to short this down. We have come in with some astrology for Celsius. I probably won't have time in this video, but that really worried me looking at that with the astrology as well. So I might, if I have time, I'm going to go over that as well, because that was screaming a bit of danger. It's come together. And I do think the astrology on the weekend that of this sort of June, what is it, 6th or something like that, or June 11, has actually brought the Celsius problem into light as well. Okay, so, you know, we have this massive thing, technical analysis, astrology, another big astrology thing. And there's actually something else. And I can connect here back to 2000. And there's a bit of a story in 2000. Now, this is not about an individual. This is just purely about astrology. But if we go back to 2000, okay, Michael Saylor lost $6 billion in a day. This is not about him, but there's certainly a synergy here. It could have gone either way on the weekend, but I believe that astrology triggered this situation back here, and we're seeing repeat. So as obviously Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, the biggest holder of Bitcoin, MacroStrategy actually. So I don't over focus on MicroStrategy's even astrology, because they're not the holder. You know, it's a bit complicated, that one. But, you know, on the March 23, 2000, Michael Saylor lost $6 billion in a day. That was a pretty big deal. And looking at his astrology chart, you can actually sort of put together why, okay? So I've got here a chart of this sort of 23rd of May 2000, 23rd, yeah, 23rd 2000, okay? And if we look at that with astrology, okay, you'd be like, oh, you know, there's certainly a bit, I mean, there's a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, yeah, okay, there's a bit of stuff going on. You know, you have a look here, there is Uranus squared Jupiter, which is probably not fantastic. Now, we had no crypto back here, so this is all about tech, okay? This was sort of the dot-com bubble. But to be honest, if you look here, okay, certainly there's this sort of Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, and that's in Taurus and the sun and money and stuff like that. But, you know, we need to relate that to Michael Saylor in some way, okay? So if we actually add the chart of Michael Saylor in here, I'll do this and I'm going to come back and show you the astrology on the weekend, because it's pretty important, right? And if we look at the astrology of exactly that sort of May 23, 2000, well, you know, there's that Jupiter. This will be interesting, right? Here's the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Look, it is over the Jupiter. How you would point it to the day, well, you know, there's a little bit of room for that. But we have Jupiter opposite Neptune. Now, I have talked about Neptune and Jupiter. Jupiter opposite Neptune, Jupiter opposite Neptune. I mean, you know, that's actually quite poignant, actually, when we look at this day. And then we also had Saturn opposite Neptune as well. Uranus square Neptune. Uranus is a massive planet in financial astrology. There's a fair bit going on there, okay? But to lose 6 billion in a day, usually we need some bigger astrology than that. And what we want to do is have a look at where the eclipses were closest to 2000 and how they come up on his chart. I have called this the Saylor eclipse because I have been looking at this for quite a while, okay? This is the eclipse that was at 16 degrees Aquarius conjunct Uranus. Now, Uranus brings shocks, change. It can be big wins. Some people may have done really well in that dot-com bubble, I guess, presume if they were short. But, you know, this is a pretty big eclipse. Now, if we bring up that chart of Michael Saylor, look at his sun, 15 degrees Aquarius. So he had Uranus over his sun, which is extremely powerful. And we had a solar eclipse conjunct his sun. And that's a bit of a one way or the other. I mean, that's kind of as big as the astrology gets, to have an eclipse conjunct your sun. it is a massive, lots of years of change. And strangely, this experience is probably related to what he's doing now. It's a multi-year thing of change. This is 2000 still, and he's gone through lots of twists and turns, and he is where he is here, okay? I want to talk about the eclipse in November. I have mentioned this before. I call it the crypto eclipse. I've been a little bit cautious of it. Now, here it is here. This eclipse in November, hideous, conjunct Uranus. It is going to be, look at this, square opposite Uranus, Saturn. There is nothing good here. Please be very careful here. We are obviously seeing it now. You're going to have this Saturn T-square, Mercury, the Sun. It's just, okay. But I've been looking at this for a little while on Michael Saylor's chart, and this is what we've got. Now we've got Uranus conjunct Jupiter. You know, that's a pretty big deal. So his sun was eclipsed before. Now he's Jupiter. Whether it is in the second house of money, I don't know. But we have an eclipse conjunct Jupiter, Uranus conjunct Jupiter, and these are squaring his sun, okay? Here's the sun here. It's just not fantastic, okay? And there's nothing to say that Jupiter is always good. Jupiter can invert, but what's also really important is it's 1 degree away. Here's his Pluto. Now, this is astrology talk, okay? This is just what it is. I can't really go down. If you've got your Pluto at 15, your Sun at 15, an eclipse at 1 degree on either side could certainly bring that up. The eclipse is opposite than his Neptune here, okay? And the Neptune for him seems to have a bit to do, because if we go back to that old, you know, the old eclipse that I just showed you before, what we have got is, you know, there's this Jupiter strong Neptune opposition here. Okay, sorry, that's not it there. That's the wrong eclipse. I use eclipses a lot, so sorry about that. Here we go. There's the eclipse opposite the Neptune. Okay, same degree. Well, on one side a little bit different, and there's Saturn on the Sun. Okay, so there is a bit of a kind of repeat of this astrology kind of coming up. Okay, and then what you've got, Saturn square Neptune, Saturn square Jupiter, Uranus square the Sun, Uranus opposite Neptune. This is not good astrology. It's pretty intense, actually. So even whilst our eclipse is conjunct Jupiter, well, with Uranus, it can go either way. Now, where we are at right now, okay, that's all great, but how do we relate it? On the weekend, we had the Venus-Uranus conjunction at 16 degrees Taurus, okay? What is the eclipse in November? It is, where is it? I've got to look, 16 degrees Taurus, okay? So just to show you again, this is the astrology of the weekend. Now, eclipses, it is not just a matter of, oh, here's the eclipse in November. No, that is not how it works. This is a GAN thing. This is Financial Astrology 101. We look for other things to set it off, okay? We are actually going to set, I think it's 3 to 4 off on the way here. I've mentioned this before, so there is so much wild card stuff. It's not for me. You know, I think with the markets, I'll be sitting out maybe until next, I don't know, I just don't like it, okay? But we've got to watch November, but I believe, and I'm not writing the Bible on this stuff, but I was a little bit open to the fact that this could trigger the eclipse. Venus rules currencies, Uranus rules crypto, you know, and it's a really strong market signature. Yes, it could have gone the other way, but it has triggered, I believe, this eclipse here, okay, that seems to kind of trigger Michael Saylor's chart. And of course, what's happened, you know, if he is supposedly holding, I'm not going to say anything there, I don't doubt it personally, but whatever, you know, but he's taken a really big loss here because we were repeating history. And when Saturn comes 2 degrees of eclipses, this is a GAN thing, okay? And I might even just go where we are now. Where are we? We've gone past. But Saturn, and this is probably going to find when Bitcoin started having a bit of a dip here, Saturn has set off that eclipse all the way back from 2000 because that's how this stuff works, okay? This was in February. It's backing off a little bit, and then it will even come maybe back again. Let's have a look. It's going to get, a little bit further away, but there's Saturn coming through those degrees. So February, I don't think crypto was probably that great in February from memory. So we are getting a little bit of a situation. Where was February? About here. Okay, so it's taken a bit of a dive. It's really, I mean, there's all this other astrology too. Okay, we've got the Celsius astrology as well, but there's a lot of charts. I have mentioned this in other videos that are going to get hit by this eclipse in November. There are so many crypto charts with 15 and 16 and 17 placements. So, and this is not just to do with Michael Saylor. So when the astrology has come in, okay, at 16 Taurus, or I've gone back by days accidentally, it's actually bringing the eclipse that I was worried would set off all this stuff in November is probably affecting it all here too, okay? So there is some synergy here because it's not just about when the eclipses are. So, you know, what I want to say with this, please be really, really, really careful, okay? Because these things can come back years and years and years and years and years. I mean, we're even going to set off this awful eclipse in March in a couple of weeks as well. This seems to be really specifically crypto because we've got Venus and Uranus involved. It's in a real market signature. And, you know, Uranus is in Taurus is all about the crypto. That's the whole run of crypto is Uranus in Taurus. So this big dip here. So let me quickly, because I managed to I had a really long video and I redid it because it was just too long and make one mistake. All right. I'm going to talk about this because I think it needs to be discussed a little bit, okay, this Celsius thing. And just from an astrology, I don't invest in crypto. I don't follow it. I read lots and lots and lots and lots of clients for it. So it's really interesting. As I said before, I'm quite neutral with it. Let me just bring up this Celsius chart. Right, I found a few of them. This is not about the coin, this is about the company. I really want to make that pretty clear, okay? There is quite a difference here. Interestingly, we're playing around with those same degrees of Aquarius that are totally unrelated. Even the node here, the south node is 1 degree away from that Michael Saylor sun. Well, no wonder all this sort of, and I'm not saying they're connected, don't get me wrong, but you know, there's a really strange, look at the ascendant is, oh my goodness, I've just noticed. The ascendant is the same degree of Michael Saylor's sun. Look at that. Now the ascendant, so the midheaven, the angle of work, oh my goodness, no wonder this has all come together in the same day. The south node, the sun. Don't worry, this is astrology mumbo jumbo, but any people, and this gets a bit weird, this is interesting. Michael Saylor's Pluto is across their Neptune. Neptune, there's the Jupiter Neptune again. I keep saying there's all this Jupiter Neptune in crypto. I don't understand that, but there's the Jupiter Neptune opposition and Jupiter Neptune conjunct. This is some crazy stuff. Just the synergy of, but anyway, I was looking at this, okay, and I was a bit, a company with Jupiter square the sun is not good. It's can run into a few problems anyway. Saturn semi-square the sun, Saturn square me said Jupiter. I mean, this is not an IPO that we'd kind of be running into by any means, but you know, that's not to say that companies don't do well, but this is a tough, it's not IPO, sorry, it's an incorporation chart. They've been corked into a pretty bad day. Look at this, got eclipsed at May. Now there was an eclipse here at May 2022. Again, it's a really interesting sort of version of that. Now the thing is though, you know, did they do badly financially? I don't understand in this, so it doesn't go beyond, you know, who knows where they went, but you know, here's this Jupiter here that's absolutely been eclipsed. Saturn over Venus. We are seeing a bit of, Michael Saylor had Pluto, Saturn. This is Saturn, Venus. He had Pluto over Venus. Venus rules currencies. It's all about money. Now their Uranus is at the same degree of the eclipse. So you know, it doesn't have to pick it up by aspect. It can pick it up anyway. The eclipse was square the sun and square the Venus. But you know, I looked at the astrology of this and I was like, yeah, this ain't good. Because I started to see people warning about this, okay? Jupiter square Saturn exact today as this thing has plopped right. You know, that is to the day, okay? And just going back to that astrology chart, what's the Saturn doing here? I'm doing a little bit of this on the fly, okay? So the Saturn is in the 8th house of potentially we don't know the times, but, you know, I would say that that is in the 8th house of other people's money. And I was saying whether this company is good or bad. I don't think it's good. You know, let's just call a spade a spade. The astrology is pretty clear. You know, whatever they're going through is not good anyway. You know, there's nothing here that makes me super kind of like, you know, but where we're at is that Uranus square the sun. What does Michael Saylor have? Uranus square the sun. They're both getting a bit of a workout there. Look at that, you know. So Saylor got it on that Neptune. Have you been telling, you know, how is it an illusion would be the best way I would say. Okay. So that's a pretty big one. Uranus square the sun. Uranus is coming into opposed Jupiter. Well, Michael Saylor has Uranus conjunct Jupiter, Uranus opposite Jupiter. That is not good. That's actually a really bad money transit, okay? And even, you know, here comes, going back to the other day, there's that Venus-Uranus opposition. Well, there it is kind of opposing that Jupiter too, okay? But and then it's also, so Jupiter square Saturn, Saturn square Jupiter, we call it a double whammy. Now that is not good for money. It's just not, you know. And then when you add a Uranus square Sun, and sorry, but that's one of the biggest deals there is, in financial astrology, and particularly astrology to do with money. A Uranus square the company, the Sun is the company in this chart, chaos and change and the Uranus stuff. This is a negative transit, okay? It is not good. So this Venus-Uranus conjunction is squaring the Sun, okay? It is just not good astrology. It's big stuff. So a double Saturn-Jupiter. Saturn is all about low prices. And when it's negative to Jupiter, the Jupiter is about our prosperity or abundance and our good prices. So when you've got a double Saturn square, I call Saturn the police and Jupiter the party, they're two opposing forces where they're opposite each other, you know. Certainly maybe you could say Uranus is squaring the nodes. Where the nodes are where the eclipses were when this company IPO'd. So what does that mean? Let's go back. Now this was 2018, okay? So we can't use that eclipse from 2000. But where are the nodes? 14 degrees Aquarius. So that would mean that there was an eclipse around this degree of Aquarius, the same one as Michael Saylor when this company incorporated eclipses, go back in 13-year cycles. There's a really strange, totally coincidental, because I actually hadn't planned to do a kind of related video. It's just the way it's come up. And even, let's have a look there. Let's have a look just quickly. Let me just pause this for a second. So what needs to be kind of taken into account? In May 2023, we are going to have an eclipse at what is known as a critical degree in Aries. This is a nasty looking eclipse. Here's this Uranus at 25 degrees Aries. Okay, look, Jupiter is in tow with this eclipse, but doesn't mean it's all really Jupiter-y. This is going to set off in a couple of weeks as well from just some other astrology. This looks a little volatile, and this is also what I did put out on social media. Please don't touch this a couple of weeks ago, because I could see that this was going to trigger. I could see the other transits coming in then, right? And this looks a little bit intense. And actually, I think Luna, like I wasn't going to put Luna here. I'll just quickly show you one other. Luna have their Uranus at 16 degrees as well. And here's the Venus at 29 degrees Aries. So, you know, that eclipse that we discussed here, and Venus can rule money and currencies and stuff like that. So there's certainly a little bit of a, you know, look, I don't know what's going on with it right now, but I was really watching this. Now, there's a couple of different lunar charts. This one is from the one that just came out. I'm not saying either way, but you have to be a bit aware of this. And then if I bring up the other one, this is the Terraform Labs. This is actually where I got the whoa Luna from a little bit as well before it all sort of hit the fan. Well, they've just had their sun eclipsed 10 Taurus back in April 2023. That's a bit intense, you know, for sure. Sorry, 2022, wrong month. So many eclipses going. you know, this is a pretty big deal. Uranus conjunct the sun, the eclipse on the sun here. Well, you know, what's May 2023 is that eclipse 29 Aries right on this Uranus. And, you know, you're probably going to, I get all these emails and what's going to happen? I don't know. We can't even say with Uranus involved whether it's being eclipsed or the Uranus is doing it. We just know something's likely. Doesn't even mean it will, but astrology is here to give us a heads up. Okay, that's what it's for. So if in doubt, stay out. You know, you're going to have Saturn square Venus, Uranus opposite Jupiter again. There's all these Uranus opposite Jupiter. At the same time, you know, it's not like any of it. Jupiter square Pluto. It's really kind of not good astrology. So rather than me tell you what's going to happen, I don't know. But things aren't looking good. Are they? You know, everyone's talking about new highs. Well, I don't know. So what you've got to do, I don't provide financial advice. There is no financial advice provided. I talk about astrology. Obviously, when you are in an asset, there's nothing you can do, and we need to look for good astrology. And I'm not so much doing that here because to me, we're weighted on the negative side here, okay? But, you know, hopefully this will hit here, by the way, and you'll be, you know, this should give you a little bit of, it needs to just come and do its thing. And I think it'll probably go to this 19,000. You know, hopefully you'll get a bit of relief. I don't know how these moving averages work on crypto. These are from you know, stock world. So there's just a lot of stuff going on here, but that is why I think you've seen this really intense reaction here, because we have set off the eclipse in November. So what does that do? Possibly it gives us a little bit of insight. There is no guarantee that's what's going to happen, but if it has set it off, is it a war? Look, I don't know, but you know, would I be playing in this? No. That's where the markets, whatever, anything to do with money, no. You know, there's nothing wrong with stepping aside but that's obviously if you've got the ability to do it. Okay. There's no guarantees here. You know, and the world's gone a little bit crazy and stuff as well with inflation and everything. And I don't think that's helping either. But, you know, this is halfway through Taurus, the elevator. Just, you know, I've mentioned that before, and please, and I have said, you know, Raymond Merriman's one to go to with that stuff. But this is some important stuff. Okay, these numbers are not just a number. They really mean a lot of stuff in financial astrology. The degrees and stuff is really, really important. We are now, you'll get lucky because Uranus will pull back. And maybe when Uranus goes retrograde, you will get a change in trend, or you'll get a pause, because what's going to happen is that you will get Uranus. Sorry, I went backwards instead of forwards as I'm playing with the retrogrades. Here you go. It's going to go retrograde, but think, you know, we are over that halfway point. And that's going to happen here. Now it will get to go back a little bit further. It's going to go all the way back to 15 degrees. So that's coming all the, you know, that's all the way until kind of the end of the year. So that would be maybe even best case scenario, but we're playing again with Uranus at that 16 degrees. I sort of remember saying you've got to be really careful here when Uranus hits 16 degrees because it can set off the eclipse. I can see here November 2022, around that other eclipse, we're actually setting off another eclipse from last year, and now we're possibly going to set off the one in May next year in a couple of weeks. So you can't predict this stuff. It can't be predicted. I thought it'd be more global events. Often when planets trigger these eclipses, we see it on a global stage. Well, maybe this kind of stuff is a global stage because it affects the global population a little bit, but everything needs to go to God. It costs 200 EMA, God. Everything goes to God. So once it gets there, it's, you know, that is a corrective reach right now. It's more than corrective. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. But, you know, you hopefully will see a bit of reversion. You know, the stochastics are going to cross, you know, so hopefully it's nearly there. But that is from an astrology standpoint why I believe we're in this really intense situation here. So with the Celsius stuff, don't love it, sorry. The lunar stuff, don't love it, sorry. It's just, you know, and there's a lot, as I said before many times with all the Jupiter and Neptune stuff, got to be really, really careful in all this stuff. And there's a lot of repeated degrees. So we're repeating history. We're kind of coming into this new stuff. We're putting all this energy together. We're matching up with charts. And I don't know enough about crypto to say too much. I'm certainly not pointing fingers, but all I can do is point the astrology, and the astrology is really warning to it ain't good. Okay, so that's what it is. Will it get better? I don't know. Can't answer that, sorry. You know, all we can do is look at the astrology. I certainly wouldn't go ahead and look for some good stuff, because not with the Uranus squaring the sun, that's a pretty monster one. You'd be pretty hard pressed to find something bigger than that. And that's coming back in May 2023, again, when that other Uranus opposite Jupiter, okay? So it's when the other eclipse comes. So I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I just say to be careful, okay? And that's just some financial astrology. If you don't understand it, I'm sorry, I can't control it. It's just I'd be hours long if I tried to pull it back, not from an astrology thing, and can only sort of describe why it is the way it is with some astrology, okay? I watch May 2023 too, because that's when Pluto goes to Aquarius. So that is where I believe we're at right now. But, you know, Venus-Uranus conjunction, it is a quick, fairly quick. I mean, it does a lot of damage, but you will get a bit of a separation, okay? They'll sort of be by the end of this week. And Mercury retrograde is over this week, and maybe that's got probably a lot to do with it as well. Bitcoin absolutely hates the second shadow. There's two like bookends. It holds one. The second one has always been the worst, and I've been doing this for 8 years. 6 of them have been the worst on the tail end, okay? It just is what it is. So nearly there. Breathe through it, and hopefully this sort of Uranus retrograde will bring a change in trend. Look, I don't know, okay? And that's it for that one. Okay, bye.